And most people are really struggling with getting healthy and getting fit. And they start a training program, they start a nutrition program, and they try hard for a short period of time or even a long period of time, but they don't see meaningful results. They quit, they go back, they start again, they repeat the cycle, and it's bloody exhausting. And I figured out why. So stick with me. I'm going to explain to you in this video exactly why people who just train and people who just work on their nutrition rarely see the results they're looking for, and what you actually need to do in order to start seeing meaningful results. So let me just share my whiteboard here with you. So this is just going to take a second for me to switch this on. So just bear with me whilst this switches on. I hope everybody's having a great day. It is very warm outside. And it is now time to share the whiteboard. So you should effectively see my whiteboard in about a second now. All right, cool. So here we are. All right. So when we think about what we have in life, we call that a result. Okay, fair enough. So the results we see in our life will take a shape or form based on what we do. So if our current result in life is that we are overweight, and by the way, this applies to anything in life that you want to fix or change. It could be your finances, it could be your business, it could be your relationships, it could be anything. Obviously, in the remit of what I'm going to be discussing today, we're going to be discussing with regards to your health and fitness. But let's say currently the result you've got is you're overweight, low energy, low mood, bad health, right? And what you want, ideal, oh, your ideal scenario, your ideal result is great, perfect weight, good physique, optimal health, good mood, energy. Just for example, right? Now, let's say, for example, you're currently here. We're going to call these X results, and we're going to call your ideal outcome Y results. Okay. So we're currently getting X and we want Y. Now, one thing that's really important to understand is how does this all come about? Like, where do results actually come from? So if we put result at the top here, where do the results actually start from? Well, what is it that gives us the result? And if we were to look at it, it's our actions. The actions we take over time, habitually and routinely, will determine the results we get in life. Is that fair? So if we know that we've currently got an X result that we want to change to a Y result, we have to look at our actions. And this is where typically most people start. They look at their actions. So they know that they're not eating clean. They know that they're not, having nutritious food. They know they're not having enough protein. They know that they're not exercising or going to the gym enough, etc. So they know that they've got these X actions. And these X actions could be, overeating junk food and a lack of movement. And then the Y result, so the Y action should be to get the results you're looking for is clean eating and hitting the gym. Incidentally, this is what most people do. They'll start hitting the gym or they'll start doing some training or running or whatever. And then they'll start sort of like focusing on nutrition, maybe a few salads, cut down on their portions, have a few protein shakes, etc. Very typical to see this around January the 1st and New Year's, New You kind of like phase. And how long does that last? Well, statistically, most, I think, says like 98% of New Year's resolutions are broken by the end of February. So that doesn't really work. So this current program, as we're looking at it, is broken somehow. Like, how many times have you just decided to join the gym and start eating clean, and after a few weeks, months, you just gave up on yourself and you went back and reverted back to type and you stuck with X results, right? You didn't never saw the Y results, you just gave up. What is it that causes that reversion back to type? Well, I think the problem is most people sort of like focus on the actions that get the results, but never go any deeper than that. And there's deeper levels to this. Like, where do the actions come from? Like, what yields our actions? And actions come from feelings, right? We have feelings. So our feelings or our emotions determine what actions we are going to take, right? So we could call this emotions if we wanted to, but I'm going to just call it feelings. But feelings or emotions that come into play. But that doesn't stop there. Feelings and emotions have to come from somewhere. So where do feelings and emotions come from? Well, these come from the thoughts and stories in our head. That our brain believes are true, otherwise we wouldn't do them or feel them, but they might not objectively be true. So let's just, before I go deeper, because there are deeper levels to thoughts and to feelings and thoughts, there's actually two other levels I want to discuss here. Let's just go and have a look at this, right? So you start eating clean and hitting the gym, but we don't change the emotions and feelings, or we don't look at the emotions and feelings under this. And the emotions and the feelings are frustration. You could have boredom. You could have a bit of laziness, right? Apathy, or whatever you want to call it. But the main one is frustration, because if you don't, you're frustrated that you're not looking a certain way, you're overweight. Um, you start eating clean, you start doing Y actions, but you're still frustrated. You've still got that X feeling in the operating system, behind the scenes of the actions that are then just causing you to go back to X. See, if you change the action to Y actions, but you haven't changed the emotions and the feelings to Y feelings and emotions, you're only going to go back to doing X actions. It's like how we're never going to get Y results by doing X actions. We're never going to continue habitually doing Y actions with X feelings and emotions. So what would a Y feeling or Y emotion be? Well, probably more motivation, more determination, etc. Right? Once you start sort of doing exercise over a period of time and it starts becoming meaningful and relevant and you start to feel the results of it, your emotions and feelings become quite euphoric around training and exercise. You actually look forward to going to the gym, right? And those feelings will then drive the actions because you actually want to do it because you're enjoying it. But ultimately, there are thoughts that yield the feelings and emotions. So the X thoughts here could be exercise is hard or training is hard. Dieting is bland. A thought could be I'm a foodie, and another thought or story could be I worked really hard. I deserve to chill, right? And incidentally, your thoughts and your stories are tied into something very powerful, which if I start discussing that's going to be an extra hour long conversation. But this is very much tied to what we call your self concept or your self image. In other words, how you see yourself in your world. And if you see yourself in your world in a certain way, no amount of work you do externally is going to stick, because you'll always go back to how you see yourself and the world. And that is embedded in the thoughts and the stories you have about everything you see and do. So you need to have why thoughts and why stories in your head. And usually, as you can see, it's the opposite of, I'm not going to write down what the X thoughts, well, I will do. So you can, the Y thoughts could be, I enjoy training. Dieting is fun, easy or easy, let's put easy. Um, and I'm a hard worker. I do what it takes, right? So now we have to say, well, where do these thoughts come from? Where do thoughts come from in our head, and where do these stories come from? Well, they come from our beliefs. So if we look at this individual that we're making up here, what are their ex beliefs? Well, their ex beliefs, I've tried training in the past. It was really hard. I didn't like it. Um, you know, my belief could be my parents never worked out. Um, Another belief could be, you know, gym is for the vain, it's for vanity, whatever that these beliefs are. So you know you've got X beliefs. I'm not going to write these out. You can figure them out yourself because you'll have your own individual beliefs. And it's the same thing. If you've got X beliefs, they're going to feed into your thoughts and your stories. And you can have as many conscious Y thoughts and Y beliefs as you want, but the subconscious thoughts and beliefs that you've got that are deep rooted in your beliefs, they're going to take over, and the stories in your head and the thoughts in your head will be X thoughts and X stories, which will then trigger X feelings and X emotions, which will trigger X actions, which will ultimately give you X results. So we need to have Y beliefs. This is not easy to sort of like embed new beliefs, but you need to start looking at the belief system and the belief structure behind what you're doing. And then it helps to know where beliefs come from. And this is sort of like the lowest sort of like level here that we're going to discuss today. But fundamentally, your belief structure comes from your programming. And your programming generally comes from uh, your parents, society, how you grew up, so upbringing, religion, because that's a big part of your belief. Could come from the media that you absorb, the books you read, the videos you watch, all of these things. So we're going to just call that your input. So if you've got fundamental X programming, and the X program could be, your parents never really took interest in fitness or gym, and they ate really bad food. The people around you in society, they were the same. It's very common in certain cultures. Your upbringing, nobody used to talk about fitness. Nobody did any exercise. It's very common to like Asian cultures, especially my generation, the generation that preceded us. Your religious beliefs could play a part in this, and then certainly the kind of stuff you absorb, what you watch, what you listen to, what you hear, the people you hang out with. You are the average of the five people you hang out with as well. Let's actually just add that to that programming. So your associations, power of association is huge, right? If you hang out with your five best friends are elite fitness level athletes, you'll be the sixth. If you are hanging out with five drug dealers, you're going to be the sixth, right? If you hang out with five millionaires, guess what you're going to be? You're going to be the sixth millionaire, right? If you hang out with five broke people, you're going to be the sixth broke person. So your power of association is huge. So if you want to change the and get meaningful results and get those Y results, and you want it to stick and you want it to last, you've got to start right here with your programming. What are you watching? What are you listening to? What are you absorbing as content? Who are you hanging around with? And the fastest way to do this, the fastest way to change your programming, number one is your associations. It's who you hang out with. This is why it's important, if you are serious about getting healthy and fit, to hang around with healthy and fit people. This is why going to the gym is really important, because you'll start meeting people at the gym who are where you want to be, and start talking to them, start hanging out with them. Get a coach. Yeah, your associations are very, very powerful and will determine where you end up in life, right? If you want to be a millionaire and you don't, start hanging out with millionaires and see how they think, see how they work, see how they do things. Hire a millionaire mentor or a coach or someone wealthy who can teach you the way they think. because the way you think and the belief system and the program, all of this is going to ultimately give you the results you're looking for. So the number one thing you need to do is change your association. Number two, it's your input. Like, what are you putting inside your head, right? And going back to sort of like this X and Y sort of input thing, uh, it's kind of like there's a guy in the self-help world. He passed away recently. His name was Bob Proctor. And Bob Proctor was like instrumental with this kind of stuff. Like he was like very, very, very good in terms of like teaching people how to become wealthy, how to become successful, etc. And he said your mind is not like your brain. It's just like you have this subconscious mind and the conscious mind, right? So if you pick a stick person like this in the head, you've got your conscious mind and your subconscious mind here. And your conscious mind is what you think. So if, for example, if I'm thirsty, I'm going to want to have a drink, right? So I consciously think I want to have some water. I want to have a sip of water there. I'll have a conscious think of a sip of water. If I want chocolate ice cream, I consciously think that I want chocolate ice cream, right? So if your result is X, but you want Y, and if your conscious action thoughts and the conscious decisions in your mind are X thoughts, you're only going to get X results. So you need to go from X to Y thoughts and conscious thoughts to get Y results, right? But if your subconscious mind, and this is really important to understand, you've got something called a subconscious mind. This is what you cannot sort of like consciously think about. It's automatic, right? There are certain programs that you have embedded within your mind that to keep you safe and to keep you alive that you don't have to think about. For example, this is like your operating system. You don't have to think consciously for your heart to beat. You don't have to tell yourself heartbeat, 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 heartbeat. It does it automatically. If you had to think about it, you'd be dead, right? So all of these things that go on to keep you alive, your heart beating, your breathing, your hormonal endocrinology, and all of these kind of things that are going on inside you right now, they're all automatic. They're all in your subconscious mind, right? There are certain habits and routines that you have that are embedded in your subconscious mind just because you don't need to keep thinking about it. For example, if you know how to tie your shoelaces and you've done it enough times, you don't have to think about it. You just tie your shoelaces. That's become a subconscious habit. If you know how to drive a car and you've driven a car enough, you don't have to consciously think all the time how to drive a car. Half the time you drive somewhere, you get to where you want to get to, and you forget all about the journey in between where you started off from and where you ended up, right? You can't even remember that part because it's almost subconscious. In fact, it is subconscious. So if your subconscious thoughts are X, no matter how much Y you try to do, you're always going to go back to X. Going back to here, it's this whole sort of pattern again. This is why people struggle to lose weight. This is why people struggle to get financially wealthy no matter how hard they try, because they've still got those deep-rooted beliefs and programming that are X-based, that are holding them back from having enough X output to create the X result, the Y output to create the Y result. They're always getting those X results. And even when they try and for a short period of time to get the results, they eventually go back to getting X results because their subconscious mind is still X. And this is the hard thing to change. I'm not going to lie. Hard to change a subconscious mind, but it takes effort. How do you do it? So you have to change your input, right? The things like I said, the power of association. But what is input? It's your modalities. It's what you see, what you hear, what you read, um, what you watch, what you listen to, right? What you smell, what you taste, etc. So it's your senses. So the more Y stuff you put into here, the more this subconscious mind goes from X to Y, right? So point in case, number one, power of association is huge. This is why at TFF, one of the things that we're really big on is community. It's creating a community atmosphere where the members of the gym feel like a member of a family. They can rely on their coaches, they can rely on each other for that power of association. Biggest tip if you want to get somewhere in life is to be around the right people, be in the right room, right? Sometimes you gotta pay to be in that room. If it's worth it, you'll pay the price. Number two, change your input. And here's a quick audit you can do. What podcasts are you listening to? What movies are you watching on TV? What are you watching on Netflix? What are you watching on YouTube? What books are you reading? What newspapers are you reading? Right? Who are you hanging out with and listening to? What are you listening to on the radio when you're in your car? Right? Think about it. What could you be changing here? You could be listening to a health and fitness podcast. You could be watching a Tony Robbins video on YouTube to keep you motivated, or a David Goggins, or whatever it is. I don't know what it is that for you. If it's fitness related, you might want to watch something by Jeff Nippard or Athlete X or whoever. Books you're reading. Are they fitness, health related books, or are they, you know, fiction, crime, erotica, whatever you want to watch or listen to, right? What are you watching on TV, right? Who are you spending your time with? So these things are really crucial and really important when it comes to changing the results you're getting in your life. Because if you're struggling and if you're stuck with the results you're getting in your life, if you try really hard, but you just go back to where you started from or worse, and you're wondering what the hell, why every time I try to do something, and no matter how hard I try, I keep failing and I keep fucking up, this is why, or it's X. So hopefully you got a lot of valuable information from this video, right? If you want to have a chat to discuss this or anything with regards to your health, fitness, wellness, mindset, give me a shout. And it might not be particularly fitness related. It could be, it could be financial. It could be relationship. I've got people that I know that I can put you in touch with who can help you with those things, right? If you are struggling to get your business out off the ground and you struggle with that, I've got people that I know, coaches, etc., that can give you a shout and help you as well. All right. So reach out to me. You should have my details by now, how to get in touch with me. I'll leave my email address somewhere, and you can give me a shout if you want to schedule some time to have a chat, see how I can help you and how my team can help you get great results. All right. Have a great day. Take care. Bye.